We're going to start off in Romans 15, and we're going to read verse 4, Romans 15, 4.
For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope.
So we're going to go over some things that was written aforetime, and these things are for our learning, so we can have some understanding on how the Lord has us operate, right? So we're going to look at some things that happened of old, and this is for our learning. This is so we can understand what's happening. Let's go to Genesis chapter 15. And through these scriptures is how we obtain hope, how we have hope. All right, so we're going to go through some things of old, and we're going to bring that up to what we have today. And we're going to see why things are the way they are. And with that being, with the things being the way they are, what are we supposed to be doing? Genesis 15, we're going to pick it up at verse 13. Genesis 15 and 13. Okay.
And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs.
So he's talking to Abraham. He's saying your seed is going to be a stranger in a land that doesn't belong to them. So what Brother Roland had did last week, he had showed where everyone comes from on earth, right? Where all the people arrive from. So from Noah's repopulation of the world, we come from a child. Every nation comes from a certain child. And Brother Roland brought that down to Israel. Now we know Abraham is the forefather of Israel. And he's telling him, I'm going to have your children in a land that's not theirs. Keep reading.
And shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years.
So now they're going to be in this land, and they're going to be afflicted for 400 years. Keep reading.
And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance.
So anytime we look at the scriptures, the Lord always lets us know what he's going to do before he does it. And then he tells us what to do to have peace and to get out of the way of what he's about to bring. All right, so now he's telling them that afterwards they're going to come out of this land and they're going to come out with a great substance. Keep reading.
And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age.
So he said you're going to come out and you're going to be buried in a good old age. He just give you the understanding, Abraham, this is going to happen to your children. Remember, Abraham didn't have children yet. So now he's telling them these things, and he was like, Lord, like, what is this? Right? So we're reading it and we have understanding of what he's speaking of, but Israel's not even here yet. And he's telling him what he plans to do. Where we at?
Verse 16.
Okay.
But in the fourth generation, they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full.
All right, so he's saying in the fourth generation, this is going to take place. Let's go over to Exodus chapter 12. So Brother Roland had brought us from Shem, which is one of Noah's children, brought us to Abraham. Abraham had Isaac. Isaac had Jacob. Jacob had 12 children. All right. Now we're looking at what Abraham got prophecy-wise. Now we're looking at the children that was begotten by Jacob, his 12 children. And now we're going into Exodus. Exodus chapter 12. And we're going to pick it up at verse 40. Exodus 12 and 40. And Brother Roland also brought us into Egypt by Joseph going into Egypt and then him ruling the world. And because there was a famine in the world, he brought all of Israel into Egypt because now he's ruling. Now he brings his family into Egypt. This is how Israel got to Egypt. But we're not Egyptians. We went to Egypt, but we're not Egyptians. All right. So because of Joseph is the reason why the migrate happened to Egypt, because of the famine. So now that we're in Egypt, Exodus 12, we're picking up at verse 40.
Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years.
So now we see them in Egypt for 430 years. He just told Abram out of 400 years, something's going to take place. Now the sojourning is giving us understanding. It's 430 years. Keep reading.
And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the self-same day it came to pass.
What is the self-same day it came to pass? The self-same day of what he spoke to Abraham. Now is coming to that time. Now something's happening. Keep reading.
That all the hosts of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt.
He just told Abraham that. And we're generations away from this. So what we have to understand is everything that befalls us today and in the past, the Lord already made mention of it. We just have to understand what's going on. So now we have this 430 years. So that self-same day, just like I spoke to Abraham, this is exactly what happened. So now we see the forefathers, they read these things. They understood these things. That's why when time happened, they said, okay, what's going on? Why ain't these things taking place? The Lord told us it's supposed to happen. But today, we don't even know what he's doing. So now when things befall us, we're not looking for anything. And we have no hope for anything. So that self-same day this took place, 430 years, it said now it draws nigh. And now they're leaving out of the land of Egypt. Where we're at?
42.
Okay.
It is a night to be much observed unto the Lord for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. This is that night of the Lord to be observed of all the children of Israel in their generations.
All right, so in your generation, we're supposed to have passed that down. What took place? And this is why we observe that day as a day that the Lord says, remember this. This is when you came out. All right, let's go to Acts chapter 7. So anytime we deal with the scriptures, it has to be in the old and the new to make it valid, right? To know we have the proper understanding on what he's explaining. Acts 7, we're going to pick it up at verse 6. We're going to read verses 6, and then we're going to skip down to read verse 17. So when we have knowledge of these things, when we read these things in the New Testament, it shouldn't be confusing to us. We should have understanding on what they're referring to. So we read the Old Testament so we can understand this. Acts 7 and 6. Okay.
And God spake on this wise, that his sojourn in a strange land.
So he's quoting, God spoke about this. He is going to dwell in a strange land. Keep reading.
And that they should bring them into bondage and entreat them evil 400 years.
So we see what he's quoting. They're going to be in bondage, and they're going to be happy this happened for 400 years. Keep reading.
You said verse 15?
I'm sorry, let's read a little bit more. Sorry about that.
All right. And a nation to whom they shall be in bondage will I judge, said God. And after that shall they come forth and serve me in this place.
All right, he's saying now after this, they're going to come forth and they're going to serve me in this place. Let's skip down to verse 17.
But when the time of the promise drew nigh.
So now we got more understanding. When that promise came closer, keep reading.
Which God has sworn to Abraham, the people grew and multiplied in Egypt.
So now this time is coming there, and now this population of Israel starts to take off, right? Because the time is now drawing nigh. All right, and now they're repopulating even more at this time. That's all I wanted there. All right, so now we see what time he's talking about drew nigh. And we see that it was already spoken of Abraham, and now they're even quoting that time. We're going to look at it again in Galatians chapter 3. Go ahead, bro.
And just as you guys are going there, what Brother Kyle brought out just now is really good to highlight, because people would still say that we're waiting for that 400 years to be over. That is a doctrine out there. But he's already letting us know here the time drew nigh at that time when they were in Egypt. But people will say, no, we're doing our 400 years in America right now. And one day we will come out of this. All right. So those are two good things to have, highlighted. What he just had, bringing us out of Exodus, and right here letting us know that no, the time drew nigh then with that same promise that he gave Abraham.
Right. Good point. We're at Galatians 3. We're going to read verses 15 through 17. Galatians 3, verses 15 through 17.
Brethren, I speak after the manner of men. Though it be but a man's covenant, yet if it be confirmed, no man disannulleth or addeth thereto.
So when we look at the scriptures, he's saying that once these things is confirmed, can't nobody add to this, and you can't take away from it. So all the things we hear in the New Testament that this is done away with and that's done away with, he's like, you can't do that. It's already confirmed that this is what it's supposed to be. We can't add or take away from it. Let's keep reading.
Now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made.
So he's talking about a specific seed. He said to Abraham and to his seed were these promises made. We have to understand who's this seed and who were these promises made to. That's very important to understand because he's speaking of something that we're supposed to have knowledge of. To Abraham and to his seed were these promises made. Keep reading.
He saith not, and to seeds as of many, but as of one, and to thy seed, which is Christ.
So now we see Christ is also under from the same seed as these children. Let's keep reading.
And this I say, that the covenant that was confirmed before God in Christ.
So now this covenant that was confirmed before and Christ confirmed it. Keep reading.
The law, which was 430 years after, cannot disannul that it should make the promise of non-effect.
So now after that 430 years in Egypt, we're brought out of Egypt. The Lord gives us laws, statutes, and commandments. All right. And with these laws that he brought forth, he's saying that this doesn't take away from the promises that he already promised. So we see all the time that certain things are done away with, but we're taking away promises by not understanding these things had nothing to do with taking away these promises. These promises are already confirmed. So when we look at circumcision, look at all these different things, say, I already confirmed that with Abraham. They were done. But we come here to the New Testament now, it's no more of this, no more of that. Pray for God, pray to God, no more of that. It's everything is no more. He's saying if it's confirmed, you can't take away, you can't add to it. Let's go over to Deuteronomy chapter 28. We're going to pick it up at verse 1. We're going to read verse 1 and 2. We're going to do quite a bit of skipping. And we're going to look at some promises. And we're going to look at some confirmation as well. Deuteronomy 28. We're going to start at verse 1.
And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, and thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I commanded thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
So we see that when he's given this commandment, he's still speaking to people, a certain group of people. And with the conversation, he's saying that if you do what I'm saying, you will be above everyone else. Not only that, we have to identify who is he speaking to. He said to Abraham and to his seed was the promises made. So this is why Brother Roland did part of identifying these people. And this is why we're going to pick it up with another way of identifying who he's speaking to. So he's saying that you're going to be above everyone on the earth if you keep these commandments. Keep reading.
Verse 2, and all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
So if you listen to what he's saying, blessings are going to come on you and overtake you, meaning you can't do anything to get away from them. They're going to be on you so strong, there's nothing you can do. They will be upon you. Just how we see the men and women of the scriptures, the people of old. Joseph, he was in captivity. He was in jail. Then he's the highest ruler in Egypt. He's always given the commandments of, if you do this, you will be above everyone. Let's skip down to verse 15. Actually, let's read one more verse there. I'm sorry, Brother Dave. Let's read verse 3. So all these blessings want to come and overtake you. Go ahead.
Verse 3, blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field.
So if you find yourself living in the cities, you're going to be blessed. If you find yourself in the country, you're going to be blessed. Nothing you can do to avoid this. Now let's get down to verse 15. So if you keep reading down till we get to verse 15, it gives all these blessings that's just going to overtake you, where you just can't stop them from coming in. Skip down to verse 15.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So now we have the flip side of this. If you don't do this, now you got some curses that's going to come upon you and overtake you. There's nothing you can do. Keep reading.
Verse 16, cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field.
Whether you're in the city or whether you're in the country, there's no avoiding this. So what he's doing here is giving us an explanation and understanding. I'm giving you two sides. If you do one, you get this. If you do the other, this is what you will receive for that. Let's keep reading.
Verse 17, cursed shall be thy basket and thy store.
Try to start a business if you want. Your basket's going to be cursed at the store, right? Your business will fail, is what he's saying. So in other words, whatever your hand touch, it's not going to be good. Skip down to verse 25.
The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth.
So now that this is taking place, I'm going to make it so any people could come up against you and overtake you. And now you're going to be removed, meaning against your will, into all over the earth. You're going to be scattered. Verse 28.
The Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart.
These people will be mad for no reason all the time. They will be blind, have no direction, no goals, nothing going for themselves. And they will be astonished at heart. They're astonished at the condition they find themselves in. This is not just 1 or 2 people. This is a whole nation of people will be under this. So it's not a coincidence that you see a group of people with no goals, no anything. Living and dying really doesn't mean anything. Because this is what the Lord will say, I will pour upon you. What verse is that, Brother Dave?
That was the end of 28.
Let's keep reading.
And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in the darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee.
So you're going to grope. So you're going to like you as if you're walking in the dark. You're going to walk cautiously, really not sure where you're going. And he's saying that you're going to only be oppressed. So all you have is oppression. And no man will save you. In other words, no man's going to help you out of this condition. I know we like to vote and try to get people in government to help. But as you can see, Nothing changed the situation. And we had a black president. I bet we can't count on one hand of how much better we are off. Because if you understood, you knew a president wasn't going to change this. This is from the Lord. It had nothing to do with man. It had nothing to do with voting or marching or anything else we try to do. As you can see, it doesn't change the situation. Because if you knew where it came from, you knew where to direct your energy at. But we want to get in all these movements and marching and voting, and nothing has changed the situation. And we had a black president for 8 years. What can we say actually took place or helped our situation? Then we're going to say, oh, we're going to get the next one in. Maybe he'll help. And we just keep repeating and repeating. He's saying nobody's going to save you. Let's keep reading.
Verse 30, thou shalt betroth the wife, and another man shall lie with her.
You can look at any slavery movie and see who that take place to. You have a wife and somebody else take her. You look at that. Just look at any slavery movie, any documentary, and you see that's what was going on. So you're going to marry someone and somebody else is going to be with her. Go ahead.
Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein.
We do a lot of houses. We build a lot of stuff. If you look at us, we in all construction, and we ain't got a house. We do a lot of building and don't have anything. So these things are not a coincidence. This is understanding who's doing this. He said, you're going to build houses and you ain't going to be in them. Go ahead.
Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof.
We in all the grocery stores, we ain't got nothing of our own. We do a lot of planting, a lot of crops, right? We don't have anything. We're not consuming that stuff. What was that, Brother Dave?
That was the end of 30.
Let's get down to verse 36.
The Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone.
So this is why we're in these other nations. This is why we're in every religion. There's not one religion you won't find us in. Because he said, when you go to the other nations, you're going to serve wood and stone. Stone will be the Muslim belief, and we're heavy in that, walking around the Kaaba. And wood is the Christianity. That wood cross that we see. He's saying, y'all going to be in every nation under everything because of disobedience. It's not one religion you won't find us in. Not one. We're in everything. Because this is what he said. When you get there, you're going to serve wood and stone. Keep reading.
Verse 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall send thee.
So where the Lord's going to lead us, we're not going to be called Israel no more. We're going to be called everything else. When you go and fill out the application, you can put black, not Latino, or you can put other. Or it might be African American one time on the application. I know you've seen them all. I've seen them both of them. I've seen black, not Latino. I've seen African American. I see a whole bunch of different ones. I just hit other. You're going to give me a free chance. Right? But this is what he's saying. You're going to be a proverb and a byword. You're not even going to know what to even call yourself. That was 37?
Yes, that was
Let's skip down to verse 41.
Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
So when you watch your slave movies and documentaries, you see that was happening. You see the children ripped away from the parents. They all got sold. They all got sold off. So he's saying that you're going to have sons and daughters, you're not even going to enjoy them. They going into captivity. We already know this only happened to one group of people. So he's identifying, this is who I'm speaking to. Who could you put your finger on as having these things happen? This is who I'm talking to. I'm not talking to everybody.
You know, we spoke about this before, about just the blessing of being able to understand the scriptures. And reading this now and coming from another church, nobody ever read this to us with that question being constantly repeated. We was already told who we were reading about. We were reading about the Jews. You're reading about the Israelites, the people you see on TV. But taking it verse by verse and saying, who does this apply to, changes everything. I'm not really saying it's the person you see on TV. Now I'm asking you, Who have you ever seen this happen to? And now you have to think like, dang, when did that happen to them? But just that one question changes everything. And it was never read to us like that. We were told at verse 1 who we were talking about. Verse 1, we already knew. It was no guesswork. It was nothing to think about. You're talking about the people on TV. Now, verse by verse, you're not going to be able to enjoy your kids? You're going to work hard and it's not going to be yours? Who'd that happen to? You're going to marry somebody and somebody else is going to lay with it? Who'd that happen to? Everything changes with one question. This is why we have to seek these things out for ourselves and not rely on somebody to tell us this is who it is. Read it and ask yourself, who can that be? So we really need to be thankful about how these things are being brought out to us. The blessing is in the understanding. That's it. The blessing is in the understanding the scriptures, not in how much you think you know. How much do you actually understand?
Right. We're at verse 43.
The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee every high, and thou shalt come down very low.
So he said the stranger that's within you, he's going to come very high and you're going to come very low. You can just look around. It don't matter who come to America. They got to speak English and they above us. I was in Philadelphia yesterday. They had a place called Chinatown. We ain't got no black town or African American town. We ain't got nothing like that. So even other nations come here and get up real high. And he says, y'all gonna come real low. We had a football player get locked up for killing an animal for 4 years. Was it Mike Vick for 4 years? We got people on camera killing Israel and get off. So he look at what he's trying to say. Y'all gonna be lower than animals. I want to get them up very high. I want to be very low. Who is he speaking to? We see when people actually kill Israel on TV, on camera, we still won't guarantee that they will get locked up. We're like, man, we still hoping. We got footage and we still not sure he will get locked up. So when he don't get locked up, we're like, that's messed up. Like, this been happening because the Lord is saying, I'm doing this. But if you kill an animal, you're going to jail. Ain't no ifs, ands, but you gotta have camera. So look at what he's trying to show. The nations around you gonna come real high. You gonna come real low. Let's keep reading.
The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee every. Read that already?
Yeah, verse 44.
Verse 44. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail.
So this is why we can't lend to anyone. That's why we ain't got no banks. Everything in our community is a check cashing, right? We got, cash for gold and stuff. We ain't got no banks. We ain't lending to nobody. Let's keep reading.
Verse 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed.
So he's saying that they're going to come on you and overtake you. So we ask the question, like, why has this happened to us? Why does this always happen to us? Why are we always fired first? We ain't do the same thing. Why my friend do the same thing as me from a different nation and he ain't at the same time? This is why. He's saying, they're going to overtake you. They're going to just pursue you. So it's not a strange thing when you get pulled over from the cops, you're scared. It's not you're supposed to be. He's saying, this is why. I'm making it this way. I'm making other nations do this. It's not anything against the other nations. They're not doing anything, but the Lord is doing what we did. We disobeyed, and this is why it's happening. But we ain't supposed to hate other people because of that, because you still don't understand if you hate somebody else. You don't even understand you're in it because of your forefathers. Right. So to hate somebody else, you don't understand what's happening. And this is what we see in our community. They're hating other nations. The nation is just doing what prophecy said. Our mind should be serving God and getting out of this situation, not hating somebody because of they're carrying out what the Lord already said was going to happen, right? So he's saying that they're going to overtake you, they're going to pursue you. I mean, they're going to be following behind you. You're trying to get away, they're right there. Keep reading.
Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee.
This is why we preach this thing every week, to keep these commandments. We don't have the same leeway as everybody else. We don't. We can't do what everybody else does because he's not speaking to everybody else. So he's saying, because we don't want to listen, how many people you spoke to try to talk about the commandment? I don't want to hear all that. How many people you just try to talk to about it? They don't want to hear it. He's saying, because of that, this is why these things are overtaking you and pursuing you. Let's keep reading.
Verse 46, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
So this is a marker for us. It's a sign, and this is a marker to identify the people he's speaking of. So yes, it's a bad thing is happening, but look, it's identifying though, right? He's saying it's going to be for a sign and for a wonder upon thy seed forever. So now we could just take these curses and point to a group of people and say, okay, this is who he's speaking of. The people that these fit this is who he's speaking of. And this is going to be a sign and a wonder for us. I wish we had a different sign and wonder, but nevertheless, we have a sign to mark people. What was that?
That was the end of 46.
Let's keep reading.
47, because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things.
So he did all these things. He continues to bless us, and we can't even serve him with joyfulness and gladness. Hey, you be at the Sabbath? Yeah, I guess I'll be at the Sabbath, man. I had some other stuff to do, but I guess I'll be there. Right? No joy for waking you up today and to worship God. Coming to the Sabbath, I don't know, man. I'll be there a couple of weeks later. I got a few things, man. I got tied up. No joyfulness and gladness to serve God. He's saying because of that, you and your seed will be cursed. Verse, was that 47?
That was the end of 47.
Verse 48.
Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee.
So he's not going to destroy you because we're still here regarding killing us. But the yoke and iron is going to destroy us mentally. This is why we still do things with slavery. It's why we eat slavery food, right? We was thrown out these parts of the pig, and now we think it's soul food. So he said, I'm going to destroy you so much, you're going to even do it to yourself. I don't even got to help you no more. You'll destroy your own community. And look what we do. He said, I will put these yokes of iron on your neck until y'all be destroyed. So mentally, we still have these chains. And he's saying you're going to need it for one of all things. Your birth certificate, you got to go to somebody else to get it. Food, hunger, thirst, anything you're going to a different group of people to get it, even money, education, you name it, healthcare, medicine. We learn to read and write from a different group of people. And we don't have any schools or anything to even do that. So he's saying for one of all things, you're going to somebody else to get it, even though you're probably the most spenders on these things, right? Most consumers on these things, but you still won't have nothing to give. We consume everything, but we don't have anything. Why is that? You think it's a coincidence that Jordan didn't start his own brand or LeBron didn't start their own thing? They have the power, the money, and everything, but mentally they will never do it. They will always go to a different nation, even though you would think they would do it on their own, because he's saying, I'm causing this to happen. So it's not a coincidence that we fall into these things and you see we have nothing. We have no stores. We have nothing. Not a coincidence. Want to say something?
The two sentences that link 47 and 48. You didn't want to serve me for the abundance of all things. Now you'll serve your enemies in want of all things. Like just completely flipped the fact that you had everything freely. You were free and you had everything. Now you'll be enslaved in want of all things. So like God is really trying to point out the things that you have, serve me in joyfulness and gladness that you have it. Or you'll want these things and you'll be serving enemies just to try to get them. Like I watched that movie Life, and I watched it as a kid. I thought it was hilarious. It's definitely a comedy. When I watched that today, that's a horror movie. To realize you got one life and they took it And at the end, you got, hey, I'm sorry. Maybe, I'll try to free you. I look at that, that movie gave me chills when I watched that as a grown man. I'm like, this is actually possible. Like, he's bringing up the things that happen on camera. What do you think was happening to us without it? For years. That's like a snippet of what's been happening to us for years. That movie gives me chills to watch. I look at them as old men. I'm like, yo, how many old men were like that? How many old women were like that? That never got to see anything but jail, but slavery. So he's saying, listen, if you don't want to serve me with gladness, okay, I'll take everything away and you'll be on want of all things. Again, who does this fall on? This is definitely a very powerful lesson. Powerful verses, man.
And then also the destruction of mentally, you call them by different names. Now you got some people calling themselves Haitians, Puerto Ricans, you got Ethiopians, Africans, you got Muslims, you got all these different names to keep everybody separate. So it's a reason why the names keep getting changed. Because if you all call yourself one name, you might get an idea of, oh, let's all come back together. But if I keep you separate by calling yourself, I'm Panamanian, or I'm Haitian, or I'm this, I'm Puerto Rican, like you keep the separation from that mindset. And then if we ever come back, he'll say, you know what? Let me give him politics. I'm Democrat. I'm Republican. Now another separation taking place. So we got to understand it's by design to keep everybody separate, because now you can't ever rise up and come together because you're all under different things in your mind mentally. So it was very, very well thought out. And we know the Lord brought this of why the separation, why there's no peace in the communities, because we're all separate. Divide, separate, conquer. And now we all separate. Now we throwing up gang signs by what street we from. And we killing you if you're from a different block. And we don't own the block. So you look at the mind of how we even got there. We have drugs in the community. We have no ships to get them here. We have no trucks to get them here. How they get in there? Where the guns come from? We don't own no gun store, no gun places, manufacturers. How they get in the communities? So you got to understand these things are by design, why these things are happening in the communities. And if we understand that, we can get away from these curses. We don't have to be under them, even though he's calling them. He's just saying they're for you and they're ready to go. But we can stop them by doing what we're doing right now, keeping the commandments. So like I always say, I have no fear when I get pulled over. They don't belong to me. They belong to somebody else. I don't have no fear of anything. Because he said, if you keep these commandments, this is your protection in the nation where I scatter you. This is your protection. I can't do nothing of my own. I can't even protect my family if I wanted to. But these commandments can. So I will be here every week, Lord's willing, doing the same thing, because this is my only protection I have. I know if I'm not here, I'm good to go with all these curses just like everybody else. But the way they go around me and my family, I have them here every Sabbath, worshiping. Very important. Verse 49.
The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as an eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
We didn't understand English. This nation will come from far, as swift as the eagle flieth. The bird for America is the eagle, as well as for Greece, as well as for Rome. These are people we were in captivity to. He even told us what the animal's going to be that's going to be on the flag. He said, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation from far, a tongue you did not know. We did not know English or Spanish or any other ones. But these are the people we were in captivity to for disobedience. Let's keep reading.
Verse 50. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young.
So we see that he don't care about you being old, young, it don't matter. These nations are going to be fierce amongst it. Don't matter who you are. Let's skip down to verse 50. You stopped at 50, right? Skip down to verse 54.
So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate his eye shall be evil toward his brother.
So here, this is where we get the evilness toward one another. This is why if you bump me by accident, I'm liable to kill you. He's saying your eye is going to be evil towards your brother. So you can understand why before you even meet somebody, they dislike you. Your brother's going to have an evil eye towards you. You could be in a line, busy, and just step on somebody's shoe. And you're liable to not make it. So you see why the black on black crime is the way it is. We kill us more than any other nation, but we don't point that out. We don't march for that type of stuff, though. We don't try to stop that in the community. We want the other nations to stop killing us, but we don't talk about us even killing ourselves. So he's saying your eye is going to be evil towards your brother. Keep reading.
And toward the wife of his bosom.
So this is why we don't go to our wives. It's why we don't marry our women. Because we're going to be evil to the women that are in the nation. Go ahead.
And toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave.
And even our children, we're going to leave them. So it's not a coincidence why we got the highest rate of leaving our children, our child support, our single parent homes. We didn't think of this on our own. This is happening because this is fulfilling prophecy. So when somebody have a whole bunch of kids all across the that's what he's doing. He's doing what prophecy said he's going to do. So when we leave our children, it's already told we were going to do that. What nations are doing that? What nations have single family homes like us? What nation treat our women like we do? We're the only one with music videos with half-naked women pouring liquor on. Who does that? Or prostituting our women? We are that nation. So we got to understand these curses will overtake you. So you might not want to do them. Don't keep the commandments. And you will be doing something like this because it's already ready to go. He said, I promise I will do this, good and bad. So if you don't keep these commandments, you're going to be in this stuff no matter what. You can say, I'm not going to do it. You can say it all you want. He said, oh, no. I say you're going to do it. Oh, you're going to do it. But it's going to be a sign and a wonder for everybody to see. That's who I'm speaking of. Verse 56.
The tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness. Her eyes shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom.
So our women are going to hate us. Now you hear why you say, I don't need no man. I don't need no man. I'm good. So this delicate woman we supposed to have, now we have some ruthless women. To where other nations use our women as weapons. You look at who's over HR, our women. Who's over anything protecting some money, our women. They put us on the front line knowing, oh, I know I got somebody on my side. Because our women will protect like no other, and that's why they use our women as weapons. So you go text, you call tech support or something if you want with our women, they get right with you, right? Or you try to do something against something that they're over, they will get with you. So they say, you know what? I'll put Israel as HR. Nobody crossed them. So he's saying that this is supposed to be our delicate women. Now we're fierce. Now you hear all the people when they get rich, they say, I'm gonna get me another woman from a different nation. I can't deal with Israel, man. They got all this mouth. This is what we always hear, right? We hear all of our men say that. So we go to a different nation. If we get any bit of success, we're getting out of this nation and going to a different one. So it's not a coincidence why everybody famous is probably, we can count on one hand how people married Israel. One hand. So you gotta understand that this is prophecy. This is what makes the Bible valid. This is what makes it real. Because we don't have to say, I wonder who this is going on with. Just look. Just look at what we're talking about here and look at what's happening. All right, so this woman is going to hate her husband, have evil towards us. And we have the lowest rate of marriage and successful marriages at that. Where we at? Her eyes going to be evil toward the husband of her bosom.
And toward her son and toward her daughter.
So now we see where the women leave their children, put them up for adoption, treat them evil. So even our women is going to hate the children. All right. Can't put every nation under this. You just can't. And so there's too many to give it to another nation. Verse 58.
If thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear this glorious and fearful name, the Lord thy God.
If we don't fear, that's why what Brother Dave read earlier, that fear of the Lord. This is what we're supposed to have, this fear of him. Keep reading.
Verse 59, then the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed.
We're going to have plagues, and the plagues of our seed, our children. Go ahead.
Even great plagues, and of long continuance, and sore sickness, and of long continuance.
We're going to have sicknesses amongst us. We're going to have plagues and sicknesses. Who got more plagues and sicknesses than Israel? And we want to blame it on the food. We can't be the food. We eat the same thing everybody else eat. Why are we the highest in everything? Cancer, AIDS, heart failure, high blood pressure, mental issues. He's saying this is going to be on you and your children. Keep reading.
Verse 60, moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt.
Even those diseases we left in Egypt, he's going to bring them with us. Keep reading.
Which thou was afraid of.
Which we were scared of when we were there. Go ahead.
And they shall cleave unto thee.
And they gonna stick right to you. Ain't no way around them. We stay in doctors trying to get medicine. Keeping the commandments, the only medicine we need. But we want to go to every physician to try to heal us. He's like, nah, I'll put this on you. Right? So we see our elder, even our young, just with sicknesses, illnesses. He's saying, I put that on you and your children. Keep reading.
Verse 61, also every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this law.
Even plagues not even in this book. That's why I said AIDS. AIDS ain't in this book. He said, I'm giving you something ain't even written in here. Y'all gonna have. We got diseases ain't even written. He said, I got a lot of stuff for you guys lined up. Keep reading.
Then will the Lord bring upon thee until thou be destroyed.
He gonna keep putting these things on you till he destroy you. So look at how we can get rid of these mental problems, these issues. He's saying, I'm plaguing you. And the more he does it, the more we get worse and worse. He's like, this wasn't supposed to be for you to continue in what you're doing. He's supposed to say, oh, Lord, I'm turning to you. Remove these things. This is the medicine. This is the remedy. Keep the commandments. It's a simple remedy. But we want to find every other way to do it, to get away from serving God. That's not happening. It's not happening. And the quicker we come to that understanding, the better we can heal ourselves, our family, and our loved ones, our friends. This is the medicine. Where we at?
That was the end of 61.
All right, let's skip down to verse 65.
Middle of 61.
Oh, middle of 61?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, bro. Nah, he read all.
He read all that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all.
Let's go to verse 65.
Among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing of eyes.
So he said, I don't care where you at. So I know everybody on vacation all over the world. Where you find us, we're in the same position as we here in America, in the ghetto. I don't care where you go. I actually lived in the ghetto in Brazil. I didn't even know we were there. Well, I knew we were there. I didn't know we were doing the same thing. I didn't have the knowledge I have now. It's the same exact thing. We on the porches hanging out. We walking around. We selling drugs. Women half naked. Same, it's almost like America, but they spoke Portuguese. That was it. Same exact thing. I already know. You already know when you go into the hood because it's chicken spot, Chinese spot, 3 churches, chicken spot, liquor store, another chicken spot, right? Cash for check, cash check cashing.
Yeah, a lot of churches.
A lot of churches. And if you see chairs on the porch with a table and maybe some dominoes sitting up there,
And a refrigerator.
we're right around there, right? You already know the community, just walk around. You might see some bars on the window. All the stores got some bars. You already know, here goes Israel. Same thing overseas. It was bars on everything. I didn't even know how bad it was until somebody told me how bad it was. It was bars. I just thought that's how they lived over there. Nah, it was bars for a reason. All the way around, it was bars. So we got to understand We're reading why this is happening. Not guessing, we're reading that he said this was going to happen. Where we at?
Towards the middle of 65.
Okay.
But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of
We're
mind.
going to have sorrow of mind, trembling eyes. Keep reading.
And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life.
So we're going to be scared at daytime, and we're going to be scared at night. We're just not sure if we're going to live tomorrow. We're just not sure. Anything can happen daily for us. Whether our brother kill us, whether the nation, just don't know. We just don't know how it's coming. Keep reading.
67. In the morning thou shalt say, would God it were even.
In the morning, we go, man, I wish it was nighttime. Go ahead.
And at even thou shalt say, would God it were morning.
And at night, when you see us, you're like, man, I wish it was morning. Right? So in the morning, you're like, man, look at all these just Israelites, look what we're doing in the daytime. And at nighttime, we really turn up. And he's like, man, I wish it was morning. We just don't know what we want it to be. Keep reading.
For the fear of thine heart, wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see.
That's what we're going to have. Fear of sight and what we're going to see going on. We go like, man, I just wish it was daytime. Oh, I wish it was nighttime. Just because there's no ease. Verse 68.
The Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
So now he's talking about going into Egypt. Remember, we left Egypt, what Abraham spoke about. Now he's talking about going back to Egypt, but this time you're going on ships. Keep reading.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again.
But he spake about not seeing something no more again. We're going to look at what that is. Keep reading.
And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
So no man is going to buy you out of this situation. You're going to be taking this place, these places, now you're going with ships. How did we get here? Actually, how did we get across every nation that we're on? We could have did anything else, but we went by what? Ships. Wasn't no planes, wasn't no trains. We got transported by ships. Exactly like he said. Exactly like I told you I was going to do. So the Lord is saying, I told you I was doing that, and look what's happening. By ships is how we got here. But he did speak about going back to Egypt. But then he said, but I spoke to you that you wasn't going to see it no more. So what is he speaking of? Let's go to Exodus chapter 20. Exodus 20. We're going to pick it up at verse 2. Exodus 20. We're going to pick it up at verse 2.
I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
So what is he speaking of is the land of Egypt that was considered bondage. So he's saying you're going back to Egypt again, meaning you're going back to bondage again, not the land of Egypt, but bondage. He said, because I took you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Well, let's make sure we have the right understanding. Let's go to Exodus chapter 6. We're going over to Exodus chapter 6. We're going to read verses 5 and 6. Exodus 6. We're going to read verse 5 and 6. So he took us out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Exodus 6 and verse 5 and 6.
And I have also heard the groaning of the children of Israel, whom the Egyptians keep in bondage.
So he said, I heard the groanings, who the Egyptians keep in bondage. Go ahead.
And I have remembered my covenant.
But I remember my covenant. I remember what I told them. Even though the Egyptians got you in bondage, I remember what I told them. Keep reading.
Wherefore say unto the children of Israel, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians, and I will rid you out of their bondage, and I will redeem you with a stretched out arm and with great judgments.
Look what he's given. He said, even though you're in bondage, I'm going to come get you. So that's what he's talking about, going back into Egypt. This time with ships, you're going back into bondage is what he's speaking of. Slavery, captivity. Let's go to Exodus chapter 14. And we're going to read one verse, verse 13, Exodus 14 and 13. So now he's letting you know, I heard your groanings. I heard your prayers. And I'm going to save you out of that bondage, out of that captivity. So that was the ships were going on. We're going into bondage is what he's speaking of. Exodus 14, and we pick it up at verse 13. Exodus 14 and 13. Because when he brought us out of Egypt, this is what he said when he brought us out. All right.
And Moses said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show to you today. For the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, ye shall see them again, no more forever.
So he already told us we ain't going back there. He said, Egyptians you see today, you ain't going to never see them again forever. So we know we're not going back to Egypt. So the Egypt he's speaking of with ships is bondage, not the physical land. He already told us you ain't got to worry about seeing them again no more. I'm taking you out with a high hand. All right, so we want to see, I'm bringing you into bondage with ships, and now we understand how we got here with ships. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 42. Isaiah 42. So now that we identified who these people he's speaking of, let's understand what does that look like for us. Isaiah 42. We're going to pick it up at verse 18, Isaiah 42, and we're going to pick it up at verse 18. Yes. Isaiah 14 and 18. 42, I'm sorry, and 18.
Hear, ye deaf, and look, ye blind, that ye may see.
Hear, deaf, look, blind. So he ain't saying you ain't got no physical, you can't hear. He said, look and hear, that you may see. Keep reading.
Who is blind but my servant, or deaf as my messenger that I sent?
Who is blind like us, or his message that who's like us? Go ahead.
Who is blind as he that is perfect, and blind as the Lord's servant?
Who is blind like us? Because we know you can't fix us. We perfect, right? You can't fix no perfect person. I'm good, man. I ain't hear all that. I'm spiritual. The Lord know my heart. I pray to him every night. We hear these comments. He's saying, how can I fix that? He's a perfect person. And he's saying, who's blind as my servants? We doing everything but serving God. When we go to church, we want to have a good time. We want to have the music. We want to have all the women. We want to have a great time going in there. We don't want to sit there and get educated. We want everything else but that. Keep reading.
Verse 20, seeing many things, but thou observest not.
So we see all these things happening, but we ain't even observing it. Go ahead.
Opening the ears, but he heareth not.
Opening your ears, but you don't hear a thing. Verse 22.
But this is a people robbed and spoiled.
This people is robbed and spoiled. Go ahead.
They are all of them snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses.
So we are hid in holes. Nobody knows who we are, and you can find us in the prisons. It's not a coincidence. You can look up and see who's the majority in the prisons. We ain't the only one committing crimes. In fact, it's people come over here illegal and ain't more in jail than us. It's illegal people come over here committing crimes. Oh, we just send you back. He's saying, who is like us, hid in prison houses? Keep reading.
They are for a prey, and none delivereth.
We're for a prey, nobody delivering us. Go ahead.
for a spoil, and none saith, restore.
And nobody looking out for us. Keep reading.
Verse 23, who among you will give ear to this?
Who is going to hear what we're reading right now? Not a lot of people. And if you do hear it, you really ain't planning to do anything with it. He's saying, who is going to hear this? Go ahead.
Who will hearken and hear for the time to come?
Who's going to listen to what's about to come after this? Who's going to take this and say, man, I need to know what we're supposed to be doing and what the Lord's going to bring? He said, who's going to do that? Keep reading.
Verse 24, who gave Jacob for a spoil and Israel to the robbers?
Who did this that they ended up this way? Go ahead.
Did not the Lord, he against whom we have sinned?
Did not the Lord bring this upon us? That's why I said we can't hate nobody, because we don't understand what's going on if you hate somebody. He's saying, didn't the Lord do this to you? But you hate other people as if they did it. They did nothing to us that we didn't do for ourselves. This is the reason. He said the Lord had gave you over to this. Go ahead.
For they would not walk in his ways, neither were they obedient unto his law.
This is why. We wouldn't walk in his ways and the laws. We wasn't obedient to it. He's saying, I did this. There was no other nation that had power that could do this. Keep reading.
Therefore, he hath poured upon him the fury of his anger.
So now he has his anger towards us. Go ahead.
And the strength of battle.
Mm-hmm.
And it has set him on fire round about. Yet he knew not, and it burned him. Yet he laid it not to heart.
We get injured, hurt, burned, all of that. And we don't never think, why is this happening? We don't never lay it to heart. What's going on? Why are we experiencing this? Why is everything so hard for us? We don't lay it to heart, these things happening. Jeremiah chapter 29. So now we can have some answers to why things are happening to us. And we can say, okay, I can see what's happening. Let me go ahead and turn to the Lord and get these things to stop. Or you could press on and continue to have these things plague you and your children. Jeremiah 29, we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Jeremiah 29 and 1.
Now these are the words of the letter that Jeremiah the prophet sent from Jerusalem unto the residue of the elders, which were carried away captives, and to the priests, and to the prophets, and to all the people whom Nebuchadnezzar had carried away captive from Jerusalem to Babylon.
So this is another one of our captivities. Because he read this. This was what we supposed to do. If we didn't keep the commandments, we're going into captivity. So we went to Babylon. All right, and he's giving this letter to the people in captivity. So same as us, we're in the same predicament. Keep reading.
After that, Jeconiah, the king and the queen of the eunuchs, the princes of Judah and Jerusalem, and the carpenters and the smiths were departed from Jerusalem.
So like I said, we were always good in all these areas. It said we understood science, we was carpenters, like we're very, very good. This is why all the nations make sure they come and get us, because we just do things different. So he's saying, I'm getting all them and bringing them, right? Keep reading.
By the hand of Elisah, the son of Shaphan, and Gemariah, the son of Hilkiah, whom Zedekiah, king of Judah, sent unto Babylon, and to Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, saying.
So he sent this to the king, saying, go ahead.
Thus saith the Lord of the hosts, the God of Israel, unto all that are carried away captives.
And to us, go ahead.
Whom I have caused to be carried away from Jerusalem to Babylon.
Who I call to be carried away from Jerusalem to Babylon. Keep reading.
Build ye houses and dwell in them.
This is what we're going to do here in this captivity. We're going to build houses and we're going to dwell in them, meaning we're going to be here for a long time. Keep reading.
And plant gardens and eat the fruit of them.
And let's plant gardens and let's eat the fruit. He's saying, don't think you're going nowhere no time soon. So us here in America, this is what we need to do. Build houses, plant gardens, get comfortable because we're not going anywhere. Keep reading.
Take ye wives and beget sons and daughters, and take wives for your sons, and give your daughters to husbands, that they may bear sons and daughters, that ye may be increased there and not diminished.
So as we're in this captivity, we're going to repopulate, right? We're going to still get married, give our children in marriage, still continue on as a nation. Keep reading.
And seek the peace of the city, whither I have caused you to be carried away captives.
This is what we don't do. We don't seek the peace of the city. He's saying, when I take you there, you have to seek the peace of the city where I'm taking you. Keep reading.
And pray unto the Lord for it, for in the peace thereof shall ye have peace.
So we're supposed to be praying here for this place in the peace, because by us doing that, we will have peace. But we say, oh, this old wicked old nation, all these people is wicked. He's saying, no, I need you to pray for the peace, because in that peace, you're going to have peace. How many of us doing that today? Anytime you hear Israel talking on the corners, we're cursing the people. We're spilling out all these evil things. Yeah, the Lord's going to kill y'all for doing what he did to us. The Lord's going to destroy y'all. This is all we talk about. He's saying, no, pray for the peace of that city so you can have peace. But we don't have the mind of that. We want to spew out evil. Keep reading.
Verse 8.
Okay.
Verse 8. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, let not your prophets and your diviners
Mhm.
that be in the midst of you deceive you.
So don't let these prophets and these preachers and stuff deceive us. He's saying, don't let the people that's amongst you deceive you. If you look at church today, it's no book, a whole bunch of motivational speaking. When you come out, you don't know what you learned. You can't even repeat what you learned because he just gave you a whole bunch of words of how he battled Satan last night and how the Lord has showed him in all these different things. You got money. The Lord showed me you got a gift, and all of that's going on. He's saying, don't let these prophets and people amongst you deceive you. Keep reading.
Neither hearken to your dreams which ye cause to be dreamed.
Don't hearken to the dreams which he called to be dreamed. Go ahead.
For they prophesy falsely unto you in my name.
They take the name of Christ and give you false things. The Lord said you got a blessing coming. You've been evil all year, but you got some blessings coming. Where did you see that at? He's saying, don't let them use my name and give you some false hope. Go ahead.
I have not sent them, saith the Lord.
And we don't even check nobody out. All you gotta do is have a huge church and an outfit on, and we right in there. Look at the man of God. We ain't never compare what you saying to the scriptures. We ain't never even ask you how you qualify to be teaching the word of God. All we look at, how many people you got in your church. You got a nice car outside, couple houses, kids look like they're nice and groomed, wife looks good, clothes look nice, gotta be a prophet, gotta be a pastor. He's saying this is what he's going to do. They're going to deceive you. And I ain't never even sent them. I never even told them what they're telling you. Keep reading.
Verse 10, for thus saith the Lord, that after 70 years be accomplished at Babylon, I will visit you.
So he even told them how long they was going to be there. He said, after 70 years, I'm going to come get you. Go ahead.
And perform my good word toward you, in causing you to return to this place.
So he even told you, like every time I told you, the Lord never takes you in captivity and don't give you no hope. He always tells you what he plans to do. So he said, y'all going to be here for 70 years. I'm going to come get you. Keep reading.
For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil.
This is what he thinks of us. He got thoughts of peace. He don't have evil thoughts for us. Keep reading.
And to give you an expected end.
To give you an expected end. Keep reading.
Then shall ye call upon me, and ye shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken unto you.
This is what we're going to do here in captivity. We're going to pray towards him. He's going to listen to us and listen to what we got to say. Keep reading.
And ye shall seek me and find me, when ye shall search for me with all your heart.
If we do this properly, he will be found of us. Keep reading.
And I will be found of you, saying, saith the Lord, and I will turn away your captivity.
So look what we got to do here in America. Turn, and he said, I will turn away this captivity you're under. Keep reading.
And I will gather you from all the nations and from all the places whither I have driven you, saith the Lord.
And all the places we are, like I said, the Jamaica, the Haiti, America, Puerto Rico, like all these places we scattered, I'm gonna come and get you. Everywhere I took you on those ships, I will pull you out the same way. But we don't have hope of this. We really don't believe that this is possible for him. He's saying, all the places I've driven you, I'm gonna come get you. Keep reading.
And I will bring you again into the place whence I caused you to be carried away captive.
I'm gonna bring you back to your place. Go ahead.
Because ye have said, the Lord have raised us up prophets in Babylon.
That's why, because you believe that these prophets is what he raised up, even in the captivity. So when we're in captivity, we have things we have to do in order to reverse this captivity. And it's not until then, until he will hear us, just like in Egypt. He said, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna come get you from all the nations where I scattered you. I will come and return that captivity, take it from amongst
The two last verses he read, to say, no, just to point out the obvious, nobody's even waiting for this. Nobody's even looking for this. The only thing you've ever heard is, you can't wait to get to heaven. Nothing he just read said anything about going to heaven. That wasn't the hope he was giving you. He's telling them, hope to one day return here. But that's not what we hear in church, because that's not in the movies. That don't gather people. If I could tell you about heaven, though, that Peter's going to be waiting next to a gate and all this other stuff, but that wasn't what the people were waiting for in the New Testament. This is why a lot of people don't even understand the New Testament. When they asked them about the promise, they was asking Christ, are you here to do that? This is what they're talking about.
Right.
Nobody asked Christ about heaven. They asked, are you here to restore Jerusalem? But we're so far from the truth, we wouldn't even ask that. That wouldn't have been any question of anybody. Right. We would have said, based on what we're learning from our prophets and our preachers, are you here to take us to heaven? Is it time to go into the pearly gates and the clouds? No. Is it time to go home? This is why captivity means something different to our kids than it did from the people who were taken. If I was taken right now from here and I'm telling my son every night, I can't wait to go home, he'd be like, Dad, we are home. But I still remember home. Jeremiah still remembers home. So when he heard 70 years, he's like, 70 years, I can't wait to go home. But we don't realize where home is. We're thinking, I can't wait to go to heaven. This is the misunderstanding. This is the thing that were taught by false prophets, false teachers. That he's telling you, look out for them. Don't believe these people. When somebody comes to you with the word, that's what you got to tune into.
We're going over to Isaiah chapter 1. So with the Lord saying, I have promises for you, and he's saying, I will return your captivity where you were driven, that is the mindset you're supposed to be thinking. Okay, the Lord scattered us, the Lord's going to return to gather. But again, we didn't know who he was speaking of as a people, and we wasn't really looking forward to it because we were told another hope of what we should look forward to. So you could tell people are going to be kicking and screaming when he comes to return and gather. You're like, I'm not going nowhere. You can just tell our mindset of how we're going to be towards the gathering. Isaiah 1 and 3. Isaiah 1 and 3.
The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider.
So he said the animals, they know their masters. He linked animals above what we know. He said the animals know who's over them, who their master. He said, but my people Israel, they have no clue who I am. That is a bad place where animals know, but my people Israel do not even know who I am. Don't even consider this. Keep reading.
Ah, sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger. They are gone away backwards.
He's saying they provoked me to anger. They're actually going backwards. We're going backwards, is what he's saying. Evildoers, provoking the Lord, moving backwards. What verse is that?
That was the end of 4.
Last one, verse 5.
Why should ye be stricken anymore?
Why should I continue to beat you? Why should I continue to chastise you anymore? Go ahead.
Ye will revolt more and more.
You're going to keep going more and more backwards. Why am I continue to hurt you? You're going to keep moving further and further from me. Go ahead.
The whole head is sick, and the whole heart faint.
The whole head is sick. The whole heart is faint.
Hmm.
So he's supposed to be chastising us here in America to get us back to serving him. And yet we going further and further. Now we do nothing to serve the Lord. We show up, we hear a little bit of word, we go home and live the same life. No instituted, no commandments, no nothing. He's like, why should I continue to beat you, strike you? You're getting worse and worse. You see, when you chastise a child, you ain't chastising your whole life. Now you 17, you trying to chastise. What do you think he about to do? Get worse and worse. You're like, man, I'm just gonna stop beating you. This ain't going nowhere good. Same thing for us. He's saying, why would I continue to strike you when you continue to get worse and worse? So we have to consider when things are befalling us, we have to consider what's happening. Why are these things happening to me? Why is my life this way? Why can I not get ahead? Why nothing works out? This is what he's trying to give some understanding for. Leviticus chapter 26. So now we're just going to have a few things to help us here in captivity of what we're supposed to do while we're here. All right, so we know we're going to get comfortable. We're going to settle in because we're not going anywhere. And with that, these are the things we're supposed to do here in captivity. Leviticus 26, we're going to pick it up at verse 32. Leviticus 26 and 32.
Now will bring the land into desolation, and your enemies which dwell therein shall be astonished at it.
They're going to be astonished at how we got to where we are. Our enemies, go ahead.
And I will scatter you among the heathen, and will draw out a sword after you, and your land shall be desolate, and your cities waste.
So where you came from is going to be desolate, and all your cities are going to be wasted. Go ahead.
Then shall the land enjoy her Sabbaths, as long as it lieth desolate.
So the only way our land can enjoy the Sabbath, they had to take us out of it. We didn't keep no commandments, no Sabbath. It said I had to remove you just so the land can enjoy the Sabbath. So he said, then shall the land enjoy her Sabbath as long as it lieth desolate. We were so evil, we couldn't even keep the Sabbath. He said, so I had to take you out of the land so the land could enjoy it. Keep reading.
And ye be in your enemy's land. Even then shall the land rest and enjoy her Sabbath.
I know how I get the land to enjoy the Sabbath. I remove you, get you out of it. Now the land can do it. Keep reading.
35, as long as it lieth desolate, it shall rest, because it did not rest in your Sabbath.
It didn't rest in your Sabbaths. Go ahead.
When ye dwelt upon it.
When you dwelt upon it, you made it evil. Keep reading.
And upon them that are left alive of you, I will send a faintness into your hearts in the land of their enemies.
So this is why it doesn't take a lot of people to come up against us to roll over us. He said, because your hearts are going to be faint. So we're never going to band together and be this row like we're going to take over something. We'll talk about it, but our hearts are faint. This is why when you can see 50, 60 people outside, cops pull up, scatter like roaches. One cop. Because he said, I'm going to put some faint in your heart so you can't do it. So you see the jail, they never get overran by the inmates. It'd be like 5 to 70 from inmates to guards. but you'll never ban up. He said, because I got to put this faith in your heart. This is why the other nations can overrule, because I'm doing this to you. Keep reading.
And the sound of a shaken leaf shall chase them, and they shall flee as fleeing from a sword.
A leaf drop. You're going to flee like you're running from the sword. Go ahead.
And they shall fall when none pursueth.
Ain't nobody pursuing you, and you running. You think everybody out to get you. Because he's saying, I'm doing this to you. Keep reading.
Verse 37. And they shall fall one upon another, as it were before a sword, and none pursueth, and ye shall have no power to stand before your enemies.
So this had to take place in order for the nations to come conquer. He had to put this upon you. Now your enemies can have power over you, because before that, he was destroying all the nations before Israel. Now he's going to turn this, so now any nation come up to you and take over. Keep reading.
Verse 38. And ye shall perish among the heathen, and the land of your enemies shall eat you up.
You're going to perish among the heathen, the land of your enemies is going to eat you up. Go ahead.
And they that are left of you shall pine away in their iniquity, in your enemies' lands, and also in the iniquities of their fathers shall they pine away with them.
You're going to pine away in this land, right? In your enemy's land, in the iniquities of your fathers. Go ahead.
Verse 40, if they shall confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers.
So if we do this, this is what we got to pay attention to. If we do this in the land we find us, if we confess and confess for our forefathers, what we read, remember we read at the beginning, those that, the things that we read in scriptures are for our learning, right? So we knew what our forefathers did of how we got here by ships. If we confess that, not say the other nations doing this to us or people are evil towards you, say if we confess what we understand. Keep reading.
With their trespass, which they trespassed against me, and that also they have walked contrary unto me.
So if we confess that we wasn't right, our forefathers was wrong, and we also walk contrary, we have to confess this. Go ahead.
Verse 41, and that I also have walked contrary unto them.
And that he, the Lord, walked contrary to us because of this. Go ahead.
And have brought them into the land of their enemies.
And that's how we got here, not by evil people coming to the land just taking us. If we confess what took place, go ahead.
If then their uncircumcised hearts be humble.
If we take these uncircumcised hearts and we humble it, go ahead.
And they then accept of the punishment of their iniquity.
And we accept this punishment of our iniquity. Not say all these, cops is killing us and people is treating us. No, if we confess why these things are happening and why the punishments are coming on us. We have to confess it though. Go ahead.
Verse 42, then will I remember my covenant with Jacob.
Then the Lord's going to remember the covenant that he made. Go ahead.
And also my covenant with Isaac. And also my covenant with Abraham. I remember, and I will remember the land.
He's going to remember the covenants he made with our forefathers and the land. So when we see all these Israelites from the corners talking about the other nations, he's going to kill you and destroy you. You deal with the sword, you're going to die with the sword, and all this stuff, the other nations, they're not confessing that we got here because of our disobedience. They're trying to push it off on another group of people that's the reason why these things are happening to us. No, we have to confess our forefathers brought us here, and we also walked contrary, just like they did. And these punishments are coming because of that, not because it's a wicked nation that did this to us. This is what we have to confess while we're here. So there's no hating another nation. We got to confess why these things are happening. And not till then will he turn and remember that covenant. So when I'm confessing these things, I want that covenant he gave Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to fall on me and my children. I don't care about the other nations. They can treat me however they want. I know it's coming from the Lord, and that's where my focus is. Not on getting even or telling other nations they're going to slavery under us in the kingdom. All that's nonsense. Confess what we did, what our forefathers did, and we can get this covenant back. That's what we got to focus on. Not everything else but that. Where we at? That was 42?
42.
All right, let's look at somebody actually doing this. Let's go to Daniel chapter 9, because we just said Daniel was in captivity and he understood. So what did he do, being that he was in captivity? Daniel chapter 9. Daniel 9. We're going to pick it up at verse 1. Daniel 9. Because we always want to give an example of the men and women of the spirit of the Lord doing this, so we can know we got the right understanding on what we're trying to do here. Daniel 9 and 1.
In the first year of Darius, the son of Uraeus, of the seed of the Medes, which were made king over realm of the Chaldeans. In the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by books the number of years whereof the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years.
So we see that he's reading Jeremiah, and he said he's going to accomplish 70 years. We just read Jeremiah said we're going to be here for 70 years. Now Daniel's saying, I'm understanding and I'm reading his work about us this captivity for 70 years. This is what we're supposed to be doing, understanding what he said of old and knowing when this thing is going to end. They all understood captivity. So Daniel's reading and saying, I'm understanding what Jeremiah wrote about the 70 years. Keep reading.
That he would accomplish 70 years in the desolations of Jerusalem.
He will accomplish 70 years of the desolation of Jerusalem. Go ahead.
And I set my face unto the Lord God, to seek by prayer and supplications with fasting and sackcloth.
So now that he understood this, now he's going to the Lord. He's seeking him by prayer and supplication. Keep reading.
With fasting and sackcloth and ashes.
He's fasting and all this to get the understanding. Go ahead.
And I prayed unto the Lord my God, and made my confession, and said, O Lord, the great and dreadful God, keeping the covenant and mercy to them that love him, and to them that keep his commandments.
Keeping the mercy to him that love him and keep his commandments. Keep reading.
Verse 5, we have sinned and have committed iniquity and have done wickedly and have rebelled, even by departing from thy precepts and from thy judgments.
Look what Daniel said. We have sinned and have committed iniquity and have done wickedly and rebelled. He's doing exactly what he said we needed to do. He's in captivity and he's confessing. We have sinned. We have rebelled. Keep reading.
Neither have we hearkened unto thy servants and the prophets which spake in thy name, to our kings, our princes, and our fathers, and to all the people of the land.
We ain't listening to none of what our prophets were saying. We ain't hearkening to nothing you were saying, Lord. He's confessing this. We ain't listening to nothing, no prophets you sent us. We ain't listening to none of that. Keep reading.
O Lord, righteousness belongeth unto thee, but unto us confusion of faces, as at this day.
Righteousness belongs to you, confusion of faces to us. Keep reading.
To the men of Judah, and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and to all Israel that are near and that are far off, through all the countries whither thou hast driven them, because of their trespass, that they have trespassed against thee.
So he's telling exactly what took place. Lord, we here for 70 years. I know exactly why. Our forefathers trespassed, we trespassed, and he's confessing this to the Lord. He's praying, and he's doing just what we read. He's confessing. Keep reading.
O Lord, to us belongeth confusion of face, to our kings, to our princes, and to our fathers, because we have sinned against thee.
Because we have sinned against thee. Go ahead.
To the Lord our God belong mercies and forgiveness, though we have rebelled against him.
He's really pouring this out. He's really confessing this to the Lord. Keep reading.
Neither have we obeyed the voice of the Lord our God, to walk in his laws, which he set before us by his servants, the prophets.
And we ain't listened to none of the laws he set before us. The same thing we doing today. Keep reading.
Verse 11, yea, all Israel have transgressed thy law, even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice. Therefore, the curse is poured upon us.
He knew exactly why the curse. He said, that's why. He said, therefore, the curse is poured upon us. What curse? What we read in Deuteronomy 28. Therefore, the curse is poured upon us. Go ahead.
And the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, because we have sinned against him.
And the oath that was written where? In the law of Moses. Look what he's saying. Daniel is speaking of the same thing we just read. He knows exactly why it's happening. He's saying that thing you told us in Moses and the oath, This is exactly why this is taking place. Keep reading.
Verse 12, and he hath confirmed his words which he spake against us.
He confirmed it, right? That's what he said. If it was a man confirmed, there's no disannulling it, no adding to it. He confirmed his word. And we look at the confirmation right now of how we are and how we got here. He's confirming it. Keep reading.
And against our judges that judged us by bringing upon us a great evil.
By bringing upon us a great evil. Go ahead.
For under the whole heaven have not been done, as hath been done upon Jerusalem.
You can't see no other nation, no other group of people that got what we got. He said, under heaven, no other nation have experienced what we have experienced and what we still experience today. You can't put another nation under that. He said, who has been like Israel? Nobody. Keep reading.
Verse 13, as it is written in the law of Moses, all this evil is come upon us, yet made we not our prayer before the Lord our God, that we might turn from our iniquities and understand thy truth.
He said, as it's written in the law of Moses, all this evil come upon us, and we ain't even turn and pray to the Lord, that we may understand our iniquities and turn to the truth. This is what we got to understand. Where are we going wrong at? And turn from it and confess our faults. But all we have today is just pray to the Lord. He'll hear your prayer. But we're not turning. We're not turning from anything. We're continuing in wickedness. So he's saying from the law of Moses, this is what we read in Deuteronomy 28, and we're still talking about it. Where was that, Brother Dave?
That was the end of 13.
All right, keep reading.
Therefore hath the Lord watched upon the evil and brought it upon us. For the Lord our God is righteous in all his works which he doeth, for we obeyed not his voice.
Therefore he brought all this evil upon us. So now we know, brothers and sisters, where the evil comes from, why we're here, why these things are happening. One more verse.
Verse 15, and now, O Lord our God, that has brought thy people forth out of the land of Egypt with a mighty hand, and has gotten thee renown, as at this day we have sinned, we have done wickedly.
Look what he said. We have sinned and we have done wickedly. So, brothers and sisters, while we're here, we can just confess these things, turn, get some understanding. We can get from under these curses that he's put upon us and our children. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 8. So now we understand if we confess these things, return to the Lord, brothers and sisters, we don't have to go through these curses. We don't have to. It's up to you. It's up to you if you want to experience these things. But we know as a nation of people, we can look out and see these things is overtaking the nation. And we try to do all this voting, marching, all these things, to try to get from under it. It never worked. And it's not going to work. Because the Lord is saying, I'm bringing this upon you. You can band together and try anything you want. It's not going to prosper. Ecclesiastes chapter 8 and verse 5. Ecclesiastes 8 and 5.
Whoso keepeth the commandment shall feel no evil thing.
So if we keep the commandment, it says we're going to feel no evil thing. That's a promise. Like we always look at the promises the negative way, but look at the good things we have. If we keep these commandments, then we're not going to feel no evil thing. Keep reading.
And a wise man's heart discerneth both time and judgment.
And we're going to understand time and judgment. We're going to understand that because we're keeping the commandments he's pouring out to understand when it's time to go, when judgments happen, we're going to understand all that. So he said we don't have to feel no evil thing keeping these commandments. Let's go to Psalms 106. I like that promise, right? No evil thing, keeping these commandments, or the curses that's going to be poured out, like we have seen over and over. Psalm 106 and verse 34. Psalms 106 and verse 34.
They did not destroy the nations concerning whom the Lord commanded them.
So when we was amongst the other nations, he said, the Lord said, I got to put them away from you, because if not, you're going to do what they're doing. So he said, we did not destroy the nation that was amongst us. Go ahead.
But were mingled among the heathen and learned of their works.
And that's what we're doing. Even though we're in the world, we're learning the works of the other nations. He's saying you're with them and you're learning, you're doing what they're doing. This is why we can't do that. We don't have the same leeway to get out from these things. All right, he's saying because you mingle with the heathen and learn their works. That's these different holidays. You got your different pagan holidays that we're all into. All the different things we do, breaking the Sabbath. We got all these things we learn and watching the other nations do, and we want to do the same thing. He's saying this is why it's different. This is why the way things are the way they are. Let's go to 2 Corinthians 6.
1 Corinthians.
2 Corinthians 6. So he's saying you can't do or learn the ways of the heathen and their works. Second Corinthians 6 and 17.
Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you.
So this is what he's telling us to do. We're in the world, we're amongst the people. He's saying, come out and be separate. Don't touch the unclean thing. Don't deal with these unclean holidays and these unclean things that are put out there. Don't be part of that. Be separate. Go ahead.
Verse 18, and will be a father unto you, and ye shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty.
And if you do this, you will be my sons and daughters. But you have to remain separate. Remember, he's speaking to a group of people to do this. Now the world is going to look at these people and say, we want to serve your God. That ain't happening today. We and everybody else is God and gave up our God. We always did that though. Since Egypt, we was giving up our God. They make idols, they make things, we was worshiping. Even though the God brought us out, split the sea, gave us water out of a rock, rained down food from heaven, gave us meat, and even those, they build an altar and say, these are the God that bring us out of Egypt and we're worshiping them. So we always never want to serve God. That was always in our makeup. Just like we see these captivities we've been going in. And we're in captivity today. But because we're here, we have to confess and come back to these commandments. That's all I have today.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. Great lesson.
All right, so before we go into any questions as far as in-house online, we're gonna ask everybody to come in from outside so we can pray out. And then we'll, if anybody wants to stay around, we will go into questions and answers.
Judah. Judah, stop. Jesus, readjust it.
Malachi. All right, Brother Kyle told us what we need to do, so we're gonna end this with, I'm gonna do the commandments, and then Brother Dave will go into the Lord's Prayer. All right? And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heavens above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the waters under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy sons nor thy daughters, thy manservant nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that there is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. All right, bro.
Our Father which art in heaven,
Our Father which art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy kingdom come,
thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven.
as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread,
Give us this day our daily bread,
and forgive us our debts,
and forgive us our debts,
as we forgive our debtors.
as we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not into temptation,
And lead us not into temptation,
but deliver us from evil.
but deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom,
For thine is the kingdom,
and the power,
and the power,
and the glory,
and the glory,
forever.
forever.
In Jesus' name we pray.
In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Happy Sabbath.
Sabbath. Feeling good? You still hungry?
Okay, if there's any questions, we can take questions if there are any questions. We'll start off. If there are any questions, you can go ahead and unmute.
Not so much a question, just wanted to say very powerful talk and thank you so much. I loved it.
You're welcome.
Happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath. Anybody have any questions? It could be regarding the lesson, it could be anything in general. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay,
Words like
hold on, everybody. We got some questions. If everybody keep it down, please.
Yeah, anybody who wanted to stay for questions, you can stay. If anybody wanted to leave, Lord's will, you have a good Sabbath, and we'll see you next Sabbath. But yep,
Right.
so everybody here, we're just gonna go into questions.
All right. Words shall, will, and there was another one. Are they describing the intentions of future in scripture? For example, Ephesians 2:8-9. For example, for by faith ye are saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is a gift of God, lest any man should boast. Nope, that's the wrong one.
Okay. Oh yeah.